Can you deep down a bit about your first connection with the game and with football?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my first connection was probably when it was pretty late. When I was like 13. Um I was watching the World Cup and in Brazil, the 2014 World Cup. And that was probably my first like real connection because I got to watch the game. And I was a fat kid, so I didn't play a lot. So but that was the reason when after watching the World Cup, I picked up a ball and started practicing. So I'd say that was the first time I actually got into it. Also being Canadian, that's not a national sport. Um, I was more into basketball and hockey when I was younger. But as I grew older, I fell in love with the game. I was always aware of it. Used to always play the video games, but that was the first real life connection.
Mm. When you did watch like the World Cup, which kind of team you supported there and like who sparked your eye?
It was mostly well, Ronaldo was always my guy for sure. Um, but I always liked the Brazilian teams back in the day, but we know how that ended. Uh, um, so yeah, the Brazilian teams, the flair, the quick play, counter attacks, and like the creativity of it was what I enjoyed the most. Yeah, those were the type of teams that I'd say that attracted me the most.
Okay, interesting. And when did it started for you to going into more competitive game?
That's a very vivid memory. I remember that very clearly. So I'm a Real Madrid supporter. And I was watching the Copa del Rey at 2014,
Mhm.
and it was the final. Ronaldo was injured, and the last couple minutes, minute 88, I think it was, Gareth Bale makes that run where he scores. And I remember watching that and losing my mind as a kid. And then after that feeling that I had when I lost my mind, and I was like, this is the best feeling ever. I want to do that. That's
Nice.
all it took for me to be like, this is where I want to be. So after watching that goal and experiencing that, even now thinking about it, I have goosebumps. After watching that goal, that feeling I had afterwards made me want to be in the game at whatever capacity. And like I said, I was a big boy, I was a fat kid. Also started losing the weight. Like I knew what that I was late, but I was like, I have to. So that was what switched it for me. That was the switch.
Nice, like an emotional connection with the game, and then it
Yeah.
changed everything.
It just sparked everything. Every day after that, you'd see me outside with the ball, which wasn't normal. I was a very indoors kid. But yeah, it just changed everything.
That's amazing because, like, I think a lot of kids they didn't had so much exposure to sports and were like overweight. It's
Yeah.
hard for them to get the switch.
Yeah.
Like, what which kind of mentors you had during this time? Also, they pushed you also on this journey.
As a kid,
Yeah, like with 13, 14, when you decided this and then stick on it, because that's I think the hardest part to stick on this journey.
to be honest, man, no one. Like there wasn't really it wasn't like real life mentors
Mm,
like in front of me. Everyone in my family, to be fair, that everyone was busy. Everyone had their own thing. Um, But to be honest, my mentors was just seeing how my like to me the icons like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan,
mm.
Ronaldo, how they acted, and I would just follow. Like they attracted me with their energy, and I just went from there. I was like, what are they doing? What's he doing? I'm a curious kid, I guess by nature, where I was like, what's this guy doing? And then I would just try to follow that, emulate that as much as I can. And I'd say those were my men like silent mentors.
Mm, okay,
So yeah.
nice. Like idol, like
Yeah.
idols, and they mentor you during your path.
Just through their actions. Yeah.
Mm. And when did it started for you also in Canada? You join a club and getting more competitive game.
Right. So I'd say it got more competitive when I turned 17. Um, so I was playing more often at this point, but with like friends and stuff and just playing. I didn't really know how to
Mm,
get to that point. I joined the school team. Um, and then at 17, actually we moved to Dubai like as a family
mm,
because of work. Um, but then that's when it got more competitive because then I was in a new environment and people in Dubai play football more often. So
mm.
it was an like a step up, compared to Canada because it's always winter there. No one plays anything. Everyone's indoors. So so seeing it here opened my eyes a bit more to what it's like, a little bit in terms of structure and people playing because I got into it more. And some players were actually really good where they'd get scholarships and go to America. So like it was that environment where people were competing for scholarships. So it was
Mm.
getting competitive in that sense. But I'd say when it got competitive is like when I joined the team in Dubai and we were competing for leagues and tournaments and stuff like that. And it was again people in that team like under 17, under 18s were trying to compete for a scholarship in America.
Nice. And which kind of like struggles you had in the beginning when you did like the transition?
Um, I'd say mentally more than anything. Um, because the physical came like it just comes with movement, like everything with repetition comes along. But like it's how you handle it, and that was the tough part because you get used to something or used to an environment, but with football, we know the environment keeps changing, the people keep changing, everything keeps changing. So adapting to new environments and keeping a performance, some level of good performance, was difficult. Um, and I started off as like when I first made that switch initially, I was a goalkeeper because big
Okay.
kid goes in goal, but I was pretty good. But then at 17, I was center back and left back. That was like my main two roles. Um, and yeah, the tough part was mentally because you as a center back, I still wasn't fit enough. I still wasn't, not even close. Um, technically or tactically or IQ wise, none of it. So every time I'd make a mistake, it would like eat me up inside.
Mm.
And then you'd think about what the coach is saying, what the players are saying, and you'd think people are talking behind your back and stuff like that. So that as a teenager, you're thinking about it a lot. And also you're overwhelmed with what should I even do? What's the first decision? So yeah, because you're thinking with what should I do, and then you're thinking about what they're thinking about what you're thinking.
Yeah, it's it's like a dozen circles when it
Yeah,
starts.
yeah, and that's like as an adult now, that's what I want to like give to young players now, because just if you just take that player aside and just have a little conversation with them, you just you help clear out the air
Mm.
and get the fog out of his head, and he'll be fine. Just let him know that it's fine. Even if he doesn't think that, reassure him. Nothing happened, you know? That's what I like as a coach nowadays. That's what I would do.
Yeah, that's also very interesting because like I knew that you were coaching and playing on the same time, and also like in different countries.
Yeah.
And can you deep down how does this happen? The transition from player to coaching, and when
Yeah.
did you feel, oh, okay, I want to coach also?
Okay. It was always so with that switch, it was no matter what, that playing, coaching, whatever it's gonna be, I'm in the game. I'm not leaving the game. That was a decision. Um, so the initial like plan was to get a scholarship, go to America and play there, and then be drafted into the MLS.
Mm,
That didn't work. So instead, I decided to study sports management. That was the first thing I was looking for. But I went to Canada and what I got accepted into wasn't sports management, and they didn't have that as a program. Like that wasn't a thing in Canada. And I wouldn't be able to go to America unless it was for scholarship because obviously those universities are way more expensive if you don't get a scholarship. So I went there and I did business management.
mm,
in York University in Toronto. And while I was there, I was still playing, I was still training, I was still waking up in the mornings, doing what I have to do. Um, but I knew I didn't want to do business management or actually business economics. I knew I didn't want to do that. I did learn, but like it's not what I want to learn.
Mm,
So I spent like barely a year there. COVID hit. This was
mm,
2019, end of 2019, and then 2020. So COVID hit, and I was stuck indoors for like 8 months. Canada had it like pretty hard in terms of COVID. Like people weren't allowed to do anything, and so I was stuck indoors for 8 months, like on my own. And in those 8 months, it was a good time to reflect. And I was still slightly overweight at that time. I'd say I weighed about, no, I don't know who your viewers are in terms of country, because I weighed about 95 kilograms. In
95, okay.
in pounds, that would be like almost 200 pounds,
Mm,
um, I believe. So I weighed 95 kilograms, and then in the span of those few months or 8 months in lockdown, I just work out in the living room with the ball, and I would do hit training, and I would do intermittent fasting as well. Because I looked at myself, I'm like, you don't look like a football player, and I was like, let's make a change. And then I went from 95 to 80
wow.
in time. I dropped around 15 kilograms, and just kept going from there. I got to as low as 75 kilograms. So just kept going. And in terms of education, I again, because it was a bit of a detour that I took there, but I thought it was essential to part of the story because during that time I was searching in terms of what should I do.
Mm,
And I literally just opened Google and put football studies. And turns out it exists.
uh,
And it exists in Southampton, England. I
okay.
applied. It was early in that year, and I got accepted. And I didn't tell my parents or anything. I just applied. I was just like, just see what happens, because that sounds fun. Um, and I got accepted. I told my parents. I dropped out of Toronto, like York University, because I didn't want to do that. I went to England, and I studied for 4 years there, 3 years and a half. Um, uh, I studied football studies. And in that time, I learned a lot within football, speaking like tactically and periodization, all that. And I got my UEFA badges, UEFA C badge for coaching. So yeah, that was like the big transition in terms of coaching.
Interesting. I want to go back to the fact that you lost like 15 kilogram. Like that's amazing. Like
Yeah,
literally that's like I'm trying right now to losing 4 kilograms, but like 15 is like okay, you have to be consistent, you have to be have a dog mentality.
yeah.
How important was discipline during this part?
Very. It was very hard because here's the thing with emotions, sometimes you either want to eat more or you want to eat less, depending on the type of person you are. But with me, I was the type that wants to eat more.
Mm,
So being in lockdown for 8 months, you think a lot. You got a lot to think about. Sometimes you feel sad, sometimes you feel good. And to me, food was like a emotional thing where like I just eat and eat. It feels good, all that. But yeah, that was like a very eye-opening time in terms of like me as a human, who I want to be as a man moving
mm,
forward, what type of person I want to become. And that was the switch there. I would say I have that dog mentality, that energy like you just mentioned, because it's always been in me. And even when I play, it's the same. Like I have that it's like a chip on my shoulder type of thing,
mm,
where I want to do it and nothing matters other than it, and I need to prove it not to anyone else, but only to me. I'm my own underdog in my head.
mm. Yeah.
So I'm always trying to prove myself to myself, and I'm always questioning myself, as in, did I do that right? was just the best that I could do. And I keep going from there. And those questions, as soon as you find answers, you know what to do. But you have to ask those questions. So there's a lot of questioning myself. And discipline came with repetition. And what helps discipline is commitment. Like if you really, really, like really are committed deep inside, you will not budge. Like
Mm,
like you get stubborn about it. You're like if you stop caring, genuinely stop caring about everything else, and that's the only thing that matters, that one goal that you have, you really don't care about anything else. You get really stubborn about what you want to get to.
yeah, that's like powerful words, man. It's it's reminds me also a bit like about Kobe or Michael Jordan. They had always like the questions, how can I
Mm.
be better every day? Small things, and like this obsession about, okay, what can I do to get better? There's no end.
Yeah,
And I think that's like the mentality. You have it or you don't have it, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. I definitely think because I don't have that big background story in terms of we came from like a poor background. We were okay. We weren't rich, but we were fine. We were a standard family. We met our means and all that stuff. But I didn't have that crazy background where, all these players would come from. And I do have siblings that are all older than me. Um, and they all do their own different thing. But I guess it was just in me. You either have it or you don't, like you said. But also you could lose it if you don't nurture it.
Yeah,
So that's what I would add to that. Like you could lose it if you don't nurture it, and you can develop it if you don't have it.
yeah,
You just got to take it
100%.
step by step. It's just brick by brick. You could build it. All you have to do is decide, and then the journey takes you on.
Yeah. That's a good point, because I also think like there's one moment, if you can tap in, that's your moment, and then ride on the momentum. If you
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
tap in, it goes.
And here's the thing with momentum. Momentum, long-term view looks like this, and you have to keep that in mind. With short-term view, it looks like this.
Yeah,
But people have to zoom out sometimes and just think about the day by day that you're doing at least 0.5%, not even one, 0.5%, and that's still this in the long term. In the
yeah.
short term, it's going to look like this, and you're going to feel kind of crappy about it if you fixate on that. But just take it easy, which is something that I didn't do. The dog was too wild. But you gotta take it easy, and with growing up, you get matured, you become more mature about things, how to work it out, how to do it. It's not always 100%, but 100% is doing 100% in a week, not in a day,
Mm,
you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. And also, I think sometimes you have only 50%, and if you give 50%, that's your 100% then.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Which kind of challenges you faced, like going from a player to coaching? Like, because transitioning to coaching, now you're on the other side,
Yeah.
you have like all the experience as a player. Which kind of challenges you had, and why also the love for that?
Um, I like I like helping people, right? So I always get this urge to just I want to like if I could do it for you, I would do it. But I also like want to teach you how to do it. Like I just get that urge. It's just there. I don't know how to explain it. But as a coach, when I would see like after playing for a while, semi-professionally in different countries and stuff, after playing for a while, I'd see younger players and I would see what they're doing wrong, and then I would get the urge to want to help and want to explain like, let me just make it easier for you instead of waiting 5 years to figure it out. I'll just tell you now. Because that's what happens when you meet a slightly more experienced person, I'd say, you know. So the transition wasn't it was always planned, like after COVID, like it was always there. Like I always wanted to be something in the game, so I knew it would probably be coach, but I didn't know if it would 100% be a head coach for a team, which I did do for a while. Um, And I love it. I still do love it. But I've obviously changed since then and became more of a performance coach. But I love it because it's you get to build something as a group. And once you know that you've actually built a system, is when you no longer have to say a single word during a game. Once you see your
Mm,
players just flowing and they say what like they coach themselves in the game, and that's the best moment. Like I had a team in London and we won a cup. Um, and it was a great feeling, but the best feeling during that season was when they just flowed and I had my captain coaching them in the game and I didn't have to say anything anymore. Like that's when your hands free. That's the best moment in my opinion as a coach.
mm.
Uh, it was a great feeling.
How did you develop, for example, this system you mentioned right now, like over the time? How, for example, there's a young coach who wants to have like the system and
Mm.
this feeling. Which kind of advice would you give him?
Um, Most important thing is know how to talk to people. Know how to get your point across. Not everyone's gonna listen the same way, especially players. Some are more silent, some are more open, some are more aggressive. Some don't like to be called out, and instead they'll shy away rather than step into the light that you're calling them out for. That's the most important thing. Know how to talk to people. In terms of system and football tactics and tactical ideas, I dove hard into the way Liverpool were playing, and the way Manchester City was playing. And basically bought into that build from the back, inverted
Mm,
fallbacks, um, uh, and having a high press. So I was more of a fast-paced type of coach,
mm,
type of system. And it took a while because it's a very risky way of playing. It took a while, but I had the best team that did it was probably my under 14s, Foxes FC in London. And for 14-year-olds to start understanding how to build up from the back and press from the front, it was very cool to see them understand that because coming in they didn't know um, how to do that, and the keeper was shy. Keeper is always shy. It was about building confidence. And I didn't care if they lost or made mistakes because life is all about repetition. You're not going to get it right the first 20 times, but you might get it right on the 70th time. But you
mm,
just got to keep going. So that was the whole point is developing that system. And what I did to learn that system was watch videos because I was a analyst at one point as well and a scout.
mm,
So I know how to watch videos, make reports. So I would watch a lot of Liverpool, a lot of teams that replicated Liverpool as well. And I bought some books, tactical books. There was one that covered Pep Guardiola's way, like his tactics and how he used the fallbacks and stuff like that. So I would take pieces here and there, and you got to be creative and then find a way to make put it all together, which was fun.
mm. Interesting. Also, like your knowledge through so many different perspective of the game, not only as a player, as a scout, as a coach, and
Yeah.
that's like valuable. Which kind of advice would you give young players? They they want to be scouted, right? Like,
Yeah.
where do you like? How do you watch a player from a scout eye? Where do you look?
I look a lot for attitude, body language, for knowing the type, because with attitude and body language, you know what type of player you're getting in the locker room first. Um, and then because the way for example, what I used to look a lot at was how players would react after losing a ball.
Mm,
Would they flare their arms to the sides, take a second to grieve on the fact that they lost the ball, or does he just switch on and chase him back? He doesn't care.
mm,
Even if he doesn't win it back, that switch and trying to sprint back is enough for me to be like, I like this guy, good attitude, you know? Um, that's very important. Coaches and scouts are very aware of that on how you react. Your are very important. Um, but other than that, when we're talking technically, is spatial awareness. How aware is the player of their space? because that will dictate their next touch.
Mm,
So the more you scan, whether you have the ball or you don't, the more information you gather, and the best players, like Cole Palmer, for example, he does that a lot.
mm,
Uh, the more he scans, the more you know where your player, your teammate is or is gonna be, depending on what they're doing. Because if they're making a run when the last time you scanned, then they're probably gonna be in that space over there in that final third, and you just hit it in that final third, knowing that he's gonna be there because you already scanned and you have that data in your head. So that's very important. And those are the main things I'd look for is their technical ability in terms of knowing what to do next and their decision making and their attitude. Those are the
mm,
main things. Because talent, like a Neymar, he's gonna show out every time. You're gonna see him from a mile away. But there's those hidden gems that make a team that you won't be looking at, that other people won't be looking at, but you need.
mm. Yeah, that's very interesting because when you mentioned that the attitude is so important, then it get my in my head like, okay, it means like how important would you say that like sports psychology is for footballers to having, for example, the growth mindset instead
Yeah.
of like grow.
Yeah, it's very important that that side of football is very crucial, especially in the pro level and in grassroots level, because we're our own worst enemy, and you need to know how to control him. There's two versions of you. Which one wins? You decide. So that's very crucial because whatever voices you hear in your head, whichever one's louder, that's the one that's gonna win. So knowing how to handle that and control that really helps your performance in the game.
Mm. What I see like often is like a lot of coaches or like a lot of teams also underestimate the part of the psychology. Why do you think, with your experience, is it like this?
They just simply don't think about it. It's not on their radar.
Mm,
They're too focused on the game, which is a very important thing. Um, but it's not on their radar. They don't know how beneficial it is. Once you don't know something and you're unaware of it, you don't have that perspective. But once you become aware of its importance and how it can affect, then you like anything your brain makes that switch and goes like, oh, this is actually pretty important. Because funny thing about us humans, we're always in our own way until you hear like one or two words that changes your perspective and then you change that way.
mm,
So they're just not educated enough or informed enough, not educated, informed enough about how important it is.
mm.
That's the only
How do you see the growth in this field?
um in terms of psychology.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's effort. So they just gotta be out there more, talk to people more, if able, visit clubs more, have like workshops or something. Just inform until one, two, or three clubs go like, hey, you know what? That does help us get the extra edge on our opponents. Because as soon as you tell them you could get the extra edge on your opponents, they're like, oh, really? And then they want you.
Yeah.
And as soon as they see that it's a valuable thing and that it could win them games, especially in the higher ups, they're like, okay, we need this. But then it gets on a deeper level, of course, when you talk to the players.
Mm. Interesting. Going back to your experience, like, and after scouting, coaching, playing, and then you decided to pursue your master's at Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Which kind of learnings you had there, and going into conditioning and high performance, like what was the idea behind that?
So as a player, I wanted to find something that benefits me and others. So I'm still playing, obviously now, and I wanted to find a way to better my own training while making it a career and bettering others, helping others. So at Real Madrid, it helped a lot in terms of learning how to integrate yourself within this big system of football coaches physios, being a multidisciplinary approach because you have to take into account every other thing that the player is doing.
Mm,
So you're not his 100, you're not everything that he has, right? He has other things that he's doing, so you have to take those into account. So that was very helpful in terms of knowing how to work in a professional environment in a team where they helped open my eyes to that, and help periodize their training um, through through the multidisciplinary approach because it's very different and taking into account how many match days they have, whether they got one midweek, end of the week, or only end of the week, or the player doesn't play. That's the player that doesn't play has a completely different special plan because
mm,
he's not playing. He has a different approach. So having those specialized programs for each individual is important and yeah and one of the big things I'd say that doing my master's at Real Madrid helped was helping elevate the standard of like my knowledge in terms of I knew these things, but they were pieces of the puzzle that were scattered. And going there helped the puzzle become like a full piece. So
mm,
of course you have to put in your own effort. They won't do it for you, but it helps you on that journey to slowly put the pieces together.
mm. Amazing, amazing. And with all this knowledge gathered, now you're at this point where you build something for players. Can you give us insights about this?
Yeah, so currently I got my own online coaching platform for athletes. Um, and it's called Forge Athletics. You could find me on Instagram, which is underscore Forge Athletics underscore. And in that, the whole goal is to help players and make their personal individualized training program. Um, that's one of the things that I'm doing there, but also the other services that we provide at Forge Athletics is video breakdowns and analysis, not only of games, because I do have a an analyst background, scouting background, but also in gym form to make sure that you're
Mm,
doing things right. And we integrate some softwares, some AI softwares where you could measure angles and form and tell the athlete through illustration, visual presentation, um, where their form is and where it should be, and that's
mm,
how we help them through that. And that's by having a call every once a day, every week. Um, and that's the initial goal. And also through Forge Athletics, we have a series that I'm doing on Instagram called Forge IQ, which is the saying is it's Forge IQ. It's where I help sports science, where I make sports science easy for you. So I take big ideas and break them down and try to make it simple for people and easily digestible. So currently I'm 4 episodes in. The last episode was periodization. It's helping players understand how to periodize their own training because not all players have a team. Not all players are in the same position as the pros or the players that we know that are in a team. I've been that player for a long time where it's been 3 years, for example, where you don't have a team. There was a
mm,
time where for a couple of years I didn't have a team, but it's hard to keep training at that same pace and trying to keep up. So
mm,
there's players, I know there's a pool of players that are trying to keep going. So it's important to teach them how to keep going. So that's why I made Forge IQ, is to help break down how to do it. And of course, if you sign up with Forge Athletics, I'll be helping out personally, and it'll be a more seamless approach. But I still want people to have the information. I don't want to keep it to myself. I want other people to have it also. And then if people want my help as well to make that forge that path for them, then I'll be there for them. But I also want them to have that knowledge.
amazing, amazing. And like what I like about this specific thing is like you put all the, puzzles, what you learn together, and now it's like a complete thing what you can provide to players and achieving their dreams.
Yeah, that's the idea, man. I mean, like it's important to take in what you love. and what you've learned over the time and see what you have in terms of an arsenal and then just put it together and then see if you can make a product out of it and help others. The most important thing for me, because there's no point of doing something without purpose. The most important thing for me, my purpose, is to help others get
Mm.
to the journey that they want to get to. Because through that, they will become a better human being. That is my belief, and that's what happened to me. So
Wow.
that's why I do what I do. And I did transition, like I was a head coach, but I transitioned to this because I saw a deeper meaning in it, a better purpose that I thought could be more useful to humanity.
Mm.
Yeah.
And also I think the biggest point behind your story is you went through these phases, right? You had overweight and you applied the strategies on yourself. You played football and you had the struggles. You were the coach, you had these struggles, you understood. Then you had also conditioning things. And that's the part, like it's not only you praising the apple, you eat it from the
Yeah,
apple also, and
exactly.
then you praise the apple. And that's, I think, a big edge.
Yeah, you gotta eat the apple, get into the apple, understand the DNA of the apple. You have to really want it. Like you really gotta be like there's this Bruce Lee quote, right? So I've had plans my whole life, but plans keep changing. Everyone that's lived a life knows. So there's this Bruce Lee quote that says, "Be water, my friend. Water can flow or it can crash. So you decide, either adapt or
Yeah.
crash. You have two options." The other one sounds like it sucks, so I'm not gonna do that one. Crashing doesn't sound fun, so you just adapt, and you do it in a positive way, not in a way that like, oh, I have to adapt. No, no, I want to adapt. I will
Mm,
adapt, and I will become the best thing at that thing. You have to really want it and approach it with a positive attitude, but kind of angry too, in a good way, if that makes
mm.
sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Like really want it.
yeah. Love that energy.
Yeah,
Let's dive deep a bit into a practical case, right?
yeah,
Let's see. For example, I had also some players. They had struggles with injury. What would you say, like for example, knee injury? How could you prevent also knee injuries? Because for many athletes, they struggle with these kind of injuries.
yes, that's very true. And especially nowadays, like when I go out and play with players that are in their 30s, there's so many people that have knee and ankle injuries, and that could be avoided if they only knew. So how can you avoid that is through strengthening your legs. To put simply, strengthening your legs. Specifically, diving deeper into it, your quads, your hamstrings, your calves, your frontal tibialis, which is right under your knee.
Mm,
Um, that shin space, there's a muscle there called the frontal tibialis. Um, so through strengthening those areas, you become less injury prone. But you don't strengthen them like a bodybuilder.
mm,
If you're planning to play a sport, you do not train like a bodybuilder. If you want to be a bodybuilder, do that. But for the sport, because you're eventually going to be producing force, absorbing force, basically running and stopping, producing and absorbing. And that's going to take a lot out of your legs, a lot of steam. And if it's not used to it, it will buckle, it will turn, it will twist. You have to get used to it. So in the gym, what people need to understand is that you need to train like how you would move in on the field.
mm,
So in the gym, you would do something called contrast training, which mimics the intensity of um, of of a game, and you would do changes of direction, and you would slowly over time add resistance to everything that you're doing. Now, that's to dive even deeper into it. There's more, we could dive even deeper and deeper into this, but that is what I do at Forge Athletics, is where I curate these exercises and make them special towards the player, depending on the sport that they're playing, and position. Position is also very important
mm,
because wingers sprint more, midfielders change direction more, and center backs have that 20-yard sprint, 20-meter sprint that's really important where they need to get to the ball move back.
Mm,
So each one moves differently. Even goalkeeper, he moves differently. So that's why you need specialized programs to help them because in the game, if they're doing something that their body isn't used to doing, you're probably gonna get injured.
yeah,
And to just go back for a second, contrast training, for those that may not know what it is, it's when you pair a heavy load, a heavy movement, like a squat, like a heavy squat with a trap bar into a vertical jump. Put to keep it simple,
mm,
into a vertical jump. So you'd go from a heavy movement to an unweighted plyometric or ballistic movement.
mm,
And between that, there's something that happens called post-activation potentiation, which means you will produce more force because you did that heavy movement and then you went unweighted. Any one of us, if we carry a bag full of rocks for a long time and then you take like if you hike a mountain with it and then you finally take the bag off, you feel like you're flying. It's that same feeling. But what happens when you do it in the gym is you produce more force than if you would have done it without it. So you
mm.
produce more force, you get more out of yourself. And that's how I tell players that don't do that to start doing that because that will be the game changer when they start training plyometrics and weighted movements together.
Amazing. That's really interesting. I think I will try it for myself also.
For sure, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's not only for athletes. I think one of our mottos at Forge Athletics is that we're all athletes. You don't have to be playing a sport to be an athlete. Every single one of us has an athlete inside of them, and just because you don't compete or play a sport doesn't mean you shouldn't be one.
Mm, nice. What is the future for you now and your pathways? Which kind of legacy you want to build?
So the most important thing for me is, like I said before, is being able to reach as many people as possible, inform them, and help them through Forge Athletics. So the important thing for me is to drive Forge Athletics into as many and inform as many people as I can, and try to take it to teams if possible, because there are teams at lower levels that need it, and I've seen teams where they have so many injuries due to the fact that they don't even prepare. You got to prepare for stuff like that. If you don't prepare, then don't expect to not get injured. So that's an important market where like Division 2, Division 3 teams where people don't talk to them really much.
Mm,
Um, but if you're able to help in any way, that's a huge bonus. So yeah, the future for me is right now still currently playing at a semi-professional level or and try to play at an even higher level if possible. I'm 24 years old and I'm still working on becoming a professional football player, even though I'm old in the football world. But there's no stopping. It's like I said before, it's a decision that I made a long time ago, 10 years ago now, and not stopping anytime soon. So it's about becoming the best version of myself while being able to take as many people as I can with me.